Thank you so much. And what Rodrigo said is a perfect segue to our next speaker, who is not part of Immunitech formally. We kind of treat her like she is, but she's somebody who has spent a lifetime in leadership development with her family business that her dad, Charlie Tremendous Jones, started many years ago, that she eventually is leading today. She's a United States Air Force graduate, spent many years in the United States military. And I'm going to bring my friend, Dr. Tracey Jones, on to talk about some of the leaders that she's met through the years. And it's a perfect segue from what Rodrigo was just describing, you know, that man in the mirror, that, you know, when we shave in the morning, us guys, the women, you know, when you put your makeup on, selling yourself. Leaders understand selling yourself every day before you go out there to the proverbial battle, if you will, of building a business, and more importantly, leading a great life. So, Dr. Jones, are you with us?
I sure am. Can you hear me?
I can, Tracey. How are you?
I'm tremendous, John. Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I made another one. Good news, I'm 59. Bad news, I'm starting my 60th year, and it's amazing. But anyway, thank you so much. And I'm just going to turn the call to you. I know you have some notes about some of the wonderful people that you've met through the years that have inspired you, and you know, perfect segue from, as I said, what Rodrigo was just describing there, that sales process that we all do or don't do, frankly, to ourselves. So let me turn the call to you.
Right. Thank you so much. And as usual, this is the third one of these I've sat and listened to, and I just get so much great insights. So thank you all for allowing me to sit in, kind of augment and adjunct and listen to this stuff and learn with you all. So John asked me today, and Keith, to talk about some of the great leaders that I have known throughout my life. And really the key that I want to hit on in just the few moments that I have is that every great leader that I have in my life has been able to see something in me in my earlier stages that I didn't even see yet. And then in my later stages, they gave me the means to help ignite that greatness. Now, there's a term in theology called imago Dei, which is the image of the deity or the God seed. And so one of the things in leadership that we really have to understand is that there's two sides of the coin to motivating people. And as Rodrigo pointed out so beautifully, really the only person we can motivate is ourselves. And that's, first of all, we have to have this intrinsic confidence. We have to have a self-efficacy, a belief that we can do something. Now, all the belief in the world without the tools to make it happen, it won't happen. So on the flip side of the intrinsic confidence, we need this external competency, the means to get the results that we need. And I'm going to share with you a couple leaders throughout my career and how they have hit me at different stages. And one thing I want to share with you about leadership and growing teams is that people need different leaders at different stages of their life. So I want you to remember, when you're dealing with people at different areas coming into your organization, the new ones will be different than the middle ones, than the seasoned ones. And I think sometimes as we get more successful in achieving things, we seem to forget. We think that these universal truths, well, doesn't everybody know that reading books makes you great? And doesn't everybody know that, you know, you got to get through 9 no's before a yes? But people don't. And so it's important that when dealing with more newer or emerging leaders, you understand that. Now, I have been in every career field under the sun. I've lived all over the world. I love growing my experience bag. But one of the things I want to say is I never left a job because I didn't like what I was doing. In other words, I never left a product. But I have left many leaders who I thought were not really leading in the way that I thought they should be leading. So the beauty is you have this incredible product, but when you dovetail on that leadership, that's when you really start bringing out the greatness in people. So one of the things when I was many moons ago, I went to a school in New Mexico called New Mexico Military Institute. And the reason that I went there, I was not from a military family, although my father was a great patriot, but he went down there and spoke to these cadets, and it was an Army high school and junior college. And it was kind of like a prep school, a feeding ground for West Point, kids to go into West Point after they graduated from this. And so I went down there for just my senior year, and I was graduating, and it was like, okay, what do you want to do next? And I went there because my father had been down there as a speaker, and he came back and he laid a flyer about NEMI on the kitchen table. And he said, Tracey, those kids are really going to make something of their life. I wonder if you could do that. Now, for me, he knew that I would take that as a challenge, as a good challenge. So I applied, I went down there, I graduated, and the next thing was, okay, now where are you going to go next? Well, I was like, as a young emerging leader, it hadn't even dawned on me about the possibility that I could compete and get into a service academy. Well, Major Schaefer, he was our liaison officer, and he looked at me and he said, have you ever considered going into the Air Force Academy? Because I love being out west. And I said, Major, I had not. And he goes, let's see if we can get you in there. And you know what? You talked about people being open to it. I had never seen myself as going and competing to get into a military academy, but he thought I could do it. And sometimes as leaders or as followers, all we need is that one leader saying that we can do it. So next thing you know, he gets me in. So I'm like, this is great. So pretty soon 4 years go by, and I'm scheduled to enter into my final semester there. And we had to apply if we wanted to be a cadet officer in the different squadrons. And again, once again, I was not evolved enough as a leader to say, you know what, I think I can do that. And I kind of held back, and I didn't apply for the lead commandership spot. Well, when we graduated, I got this plaque from my officer, George Fiedler, and this is at graduation, and he said, Tracey, I'm still sorry that you didn't put your name in for the squadron commander for spring 1988. You'd have done a great job. Best wishes for your Air Force career. And you know what? It really hit me. I didn't think that I had it within me to step into the next leadership role. And I heard several of you ask about if somebody sees himself as a silver, it may have never even dawned on them that they could be a gold. So the first thing that the greatest leaders I have ever known is they saw something in me before I even saw it. And sometimes you're going to have people in your organizations that intrinsically want to keep growing. And then there are going to be other ones that don't know if they should even raise their hand to ask because they never thought that they could get to the top level. So the greatest thing you can do is just ask them, have you ever considered this? And I know Major Fiedler couldn't have asked me then because that would have been like favoritism. But him writing me that note afterwards let me know, hey, I have to consider myself seeing myself in leadership roles. The greatest and final instance of this is back in 2008, before my father had passed and before I became an entrepreneur, before I came out of the big bureaucratic closet and said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I have to control my own destiny, and I have to work for leaders that I really respect and value. My father was within days of transitioning into heaven. And he still hadn't asked me to come back and work with him to run the business he had started back in 1967. And I was getting kind of frustrated, like, shouldn't he ask me? Shouldn't he ask me? And it's like, Tracey, haven't you learned any lessons yet? You're a grown adult woman. If you want it and you see it, step into the role and ask for it. So 2 days before he passed, I went up to him and I said, Dad, I'm coming back to run the business. And he squeezed my hand and he said, whispered because he couldn't talk anymore. And he said, Tracey, I know you'll take it places I never could. That was the extent of our succession planning. And folks, I'm here to tell you, that is sometimes all a follower needs to know, is that their leader, or at least somebody in the camp, really truly believes in them. So that ignited my intrinsic, you know what, I have the confidence to come back and do it. Then, as Rodrigo said, you made your mind up, you're going to go in, now comes the work, okay? Now comes the getting your nose bloody, the nose that people say. And one of the things that great leaders have really taught me is to deal with life setbacks. My father was such a pragmatist, and he's like, Tracey, whenever I'd be like, Dad, this didn't work, or I tried it, it didn't work, and he's like, Tracey, nothing works unless you work it. And so he really taught me this grit and this persistence that, you know what, you just need to step it. I sold books door to door in college to earn my way through school before I went into the military. And one of the things my dad always said was, if you can knock on a door and cold call and make a sale, that's one of the hardest things you're ever going to want to do. And then he'd tell me, and by the way, before they go to close the door, stick your head through the door, not your foot, so you can keep giving them your sales pitch when they slam the door. So this is all just this funny stuff that he let me know, Tracey, it's going to be tough out there, but that's okay. Leadership can deal with this, and it's resilient. The other thing that the greatest leaders in my life have done for me is they've been tremendous advocates for me. All right. They believe in me more than me. And the fact that John and Keith allowed me to publish their book and are talking about more books. And a lot of you in this organization have heard of my father. He was huge in network marketing and direct sales. And still, you have coalesced around me as I came back into a world I knew nothing about. Me being an entrepreneur, I'm an engineer. How is this going to work? But people, you can't get it right without the right people in your life. And so the greatest leaders have come into my life and said, you don't have to go this alone, Tracey, and you're not meant to go it alone. Okay? We are here to help you and support you. We're here to give you the connections, the fuel you need to keep growing your business. And so that's been incredibly important. And the last two things that the greatest leaders have given me, and you guys hit on it, resources. All right? People can be so excited about this product, but they need the systems, the processes, the training, the words to say. And that's why I love the way your organization, Immunotech, is set up, because if people work the plan, they have all the resources and the means they need to be successful. Okay? Because it's terribly frustrating if you tell people to go out and take the hill, but you don't give them the supplies to win the battle. So it's great that you've got this duplication and information and tools and all that great stuff. So the greatest leaders have not only put me in the position, but then they've suited me up with the proper armor to ensure that I can get in and really fight the fight and be victorious. So that's what I love about Immunotech, watching you guys and all the things that you have. You have the science, you have the coaching, so you hit the EQ, you have the science behind it, you have the IQ, and then you're just this collective team efficacy to get everybody in, to let them know they're not in alone. Lastly, knowledge. The greatest leaders I have ever had were continuous learners, and they taught me the value of, if you can't figure it out, you just read, research. You can figure it out. And my father told everybody that you're going to be the same person today, you're going to be the same person 5 years from now that you are today, except for two things: the people you meet and the books you read. And so that has really showed me the transformative power of books. So don't only read up about what's going on in your company, but read about all the other greats and how they're having these tremendous breakthroughs. And so the great leaders that I have always valued and been drawn to are ones that are like, you know what? John, Dad would say, you're 59, you're probably still wet behind the ears, you're just starting to figure it out, okay? And he would say, Tracey, some of the smartest people in my life are in their 80s and their 90s, because they're just hungry to learn and hungry to grow. And so those are the leaders that I'm drawn to. Your organization is not just a growing organization, but it's a learning organization, and that's why you're going to continue to be successful in the future. So that's just some of the things, just people that saw it in me before I saw it. And then they let me go all in. And when they knew I was all in, they gave me the tools to be competent. Those are the leaders that really encourage me. And if you do that for your team, you're going to have people dedicated and on board with you for life.
Well, you know, Tracey, there's so much truth to what you have said here. And, you know, here's our book arrangement. It hasn't changed. And obviously, you know, the book that Keith and I wrote together, which has so many Immunotech leaders in it, and a few non-Immunotech leaders, along with some of the classics: Acres of Diamonds, As a Man Thinketh, The Message to Garcia. And this is all through Tracey's company. Let me say, this is a female-run company, ladies. Okay. Female executive that owns it and runs it. Female executive that runs it with her, who we work with a lot. Leah, great lady as well. And, you know, Tracey, I just want to make, you know, a couple of points on what you said there. And it's funny, I saw Suzette McKay shaking her head there. Who you
I saw her too.
See. Canadian military, Gulf War I veteran. I know there's other veterans on here. I want to, first of all, to all of you veterans, you know, Memorial Day just passed. always in my life with so many military people that have been around my family and associated with my family. Thank you for your service, most importantly, to our country, your country, your respective countries. I know there's people here internationally, and thank you for what you all do, because you were all willing to do things that most of us were not willing to do. You signed up, you went, you served. So thank you for that. But, one other point on that, Tracey, and there's so many things we could say off of what you just said, but I think back in my own life many, many years ago, and I know those of you like Foster and Wally and Keith who really know me, at a personal level beyond business, are going to be shocked by this. But I was very, very, very shy when I was young. I mean, I was the kind of guy that I'd go to a party, I'd stand in the corner by myself, and I'd look at my shoes most of the night. Mm-hmm. And I went when I was, 21, 22 years old. I was in this industry, and I went to a seminar that Tom Hopkins did, who I know your dad knew. Mm-hmm. And Tom Hopkins is a legend in the real estate world and business world, sales world. We're probably considered by Guinness one of the greatest, if not the greatest salesman in history. But anyway, and Tom Hopkins, I'm 6 foot. I was 6'2". Now I'm like 6 foot as I get older. But anyway, Tom's a little guy. Tom's probably, well, if he's 5'7", he's tall. And I'll never forget this. And Tom's probably 20 years older than me. And we're walking down the hallway together. I'm talking to this legend in selling, and I'm just this, punk kid. Mm-hmm. And I was telling him I'm shy and all of that. And he took out his business card, and he wrote on the back of it, "Do what you fear most." And once again, we don't realize the impact. Tom Hopkins didn't realize the impact he had on me by that little simple statement. Mm-hmm. Took him 10 seconds to write that on the back of a business card, and maybe he wrote it on hundreds of business cards that day. I don't know. But he wrote it on mine. And when I first became reasonably successful in business, I wrote to Tom, and I thanked him for that. So, we don't realize the impact that we have on other people sometimes. We just think, hey, it's a passing thing. It's a nice comment. It's a simple note. It's a simple, 30-second conversation. Rodrigo's a perfect example of that. As platinums and senior platinums, we go to events and we talk to sometimes thousands of people in a weekend. And we don't realize what we say to them until after the fact, and they come back maybe a year, maybe 5 years later. And they say, "You said this." You go, "Well, I don't even remember saying that," but okay. That's the impact of leadership. So thank you so much, Dr. Jones, once again for joining us as always, my friend. And